John Wallace had just completed the first 8 months of his medical internship, and this was his first night of vacation. However, he did not feel joyous or free. He climbed onto a bus and looked down the aisle. All of the window seats had been taken. He searched for the least offensive person to sit next to. No smokers, no drinkers, no fat people. Before he could choose, the forward motion of the bus sent him reeling. He tripped over the leg of a corpulent woman and settled into the next available seat. He placed his bag between his feet and stared at it. The man sitting next to him cleared his throat with a wet cough. He had a sunken, wrinkled face and dirty yellow hair.
The name's Larry,
said the man.
Going to Florida. Can't take another February in Cincinnati.
John did not respond immediately.
I'm John,
he said, staring at his bag.
Well, John, where you headed?
Home.
No better place to be going. Where's home?
Ashburn, Georgia.
Ah, Ashburn. Home of the world's largest peanut.
John tilted his head at the sudden recognition.
How'd you know that?
This ain't my first bus ride, John.
The bus was filled to capacity. John wondered how many people it would take to breathe up all the oxygen. If the air grew tight, would the fat woman claw at her seatmate with the desperation of hypoxia? Or would everyone float to sleep on a soft cloud of carbon dioxide? The bus pulled out of the station, past ripped-up billboards shining in the night, over the Ohio River into Kentucky. The heat of the engine clotted the air. John took off his coat.
Hey, you've got pajamas like those TV docs,
said Larry.
You some kind of doctor?
Yes,
said John.
What the hell you doing taking the bus? Gambling problem? Drugs?
Neither. I'm an intern. They don't pay me very much.
Well, cut off my legs and call me Shorty.
John shifted in his seat. The fat woman oozed out into the aisle. People stared into the darkness, making small talk or no talk at all.
Is it like TV?
What?
Is being a doctor like what they show on TV?
Hardly.
John laughed. He pulled at his scrub shirt.
Do you know why I'm wearing these pajamas instead of real clothes?
Why?
Today, a guy comes into ER out of his mind. He's talking, but none of the words make sense. We think he might have meningitis, so the senior resident says to do a spinal tap on him. Doing a spinal tap on a crazy person isn't easy. You've got to put the needle in just right. My job is to hold him for the test. As soon as the resident gets the needle in, the guy vomits all over me. I can't move because the resident has to finish the job, so I stand there with puke dripping off my arms until he's done. They don't show that on TV.
I'd watch it if they did,
said Larry. He laughed, but his face did not. John shook his head.
To top it all off, the guy was an alcoholic and crazy because he'd ruined his liver and brain. Why should I get puked on because he drank himself sick? It was all self-inflicted.
What part of life isn't?
Asked Larry. John looked across Larry's profile into the night. He studied the license plates on the trucks as they passed. 673 TID, 3 times daily. 458 DAW, dispense as written. 295 NAS, no added salt. The bus stopped in Lexington, Nicholasville, Richmond.
So you don't like being a doctor?
Asked Larry.
I thought it would be different,
said John.
There's nothing heroic about suctioning smokers' lungs all day. Don't they read the warnings? You gotta wade through the boredom just to get to the interesting stuff.
What's the interesting stuff?
Mystery. It's better when you can't see it coming. Smokers get emphysema, alcohol kills your liver. That's easy. And you see that fat lady up there? She's got bad knees and diabetes. Being a doctor takes the mystery out of life. You're minding your own business when a perfectly nice person walks by and suddenly, you know all their secrets.
What secrets do I have?
asked Larry. John looked Larry square in the face.
You weigh 145 pounds, but that's not your natural weight. You're younger than you appear. You haven't used a toothbrush in 10 years, and you blow smoke straight up out of your mouth.
Larry's face hung motionless.
How'd you know all that?
You're thin, and your temples are hollow. Your eyes are too bright for your face. Despite your age, you have no teeth, and you've got nicotine stains in your hair. Any doctor could tell it.
Well, I'll be damned,
said Larry. John looked out the window again. Fallow cornfields passed in the night. Mile markers counted off Beria, Pine Hill, Corbin.
You know, I could have been a doctor,
said Larry. John laughed again.
Really?
Sure. Teachers told me I was a natural. Took to learning real well. We all grew up on farms, and most of us never got past the 10th grade. I made it all the way to graduation. I thought I might leave the farm, maybe be the first to go to college, but the week after graduation I got a letter telling me to report to Fort Campbell. I never even heard of Vietnam until I got that letter. One day during basic training, they came around looking for people to be medics. They were having trouble finding guys who wouldn't faint at the sight of blood. I grew up on a pig farm. My job was to castrate the piglets. Blood didn't bother me, so I became a medic. We never did see much blood in basic training, although they sure talked about it. How to apply pressure in the right spots. How to tie a tourniquet when pressure doesn't work. How to get the wounded ready for surgery. As soon as I got to Vietnam, it was damn clear that none of the guys who drilled us had ever seen the real thing. Half the time you couldn't tell what you were pushing on. You just knew it was bleeding.
Larry's hands shook as he spoke.
When one of your buddies stepped on a mine and you heard the explosion, you were all alone in the world. If you were lucky enough to be standing when the screaming stopped, you ran to the guy who just blew himself up. You figured it was the safest place to be.
The bus pulled into a rest stop outside of Knoxville. John watched Larry move slowly across the parking lot, taking small steps that grew wider and faster the farther he walked. The orange glow of a cigarette quivered steadily in his hand. When Larry returned, John breathed through his mouth.
Why do you do that to yourself?
What? Smoke? Cigarettes are the best thing I brought home from Vietnam. They pick you up when you're feeling down and calm you down when you're feeling up.
But it's going to kill you.
Maybe,
said Larry.
but it would be worth it.
They talked until morning,
The sign back there said Arabai.
said John.
Ashburn is just a few minutes ahead.
Home sweet home.
Said Larry.
So, why didn't you become a doctor?
Asked John.
When I got home from Vietnam, I couldn't feel anything. I might have been smart enough to be a doctor, but I figured you had to have heart to take care of people.
So what did you end up doing?
Oh, I went back to the farm for a few years, and then I worked 100 different jobs in 100 different places. Every year was harder than the next to get moving. Life slowed down as I got older. Now I'm sitting here with you.
Do you usually talk to strangers on the bus?
Larry grinned imperceptibly.
Whenever I can, John. Whenever I can.
John studied Larry again, the way his face hung like a picture, the way his hands rolled over and over. The bus pulled into the Ashburn station.
Larry, do you have a doctor in Cincinnati?
No.
John fished around in his bag.
Here, it's my card. I want you to call me when you get back.
Why?
You have Parkinson's disease.
Larry stuffed the card into his pocket.
Is that interesting stuff?
John grinned slightly as he stood to go.
It can be, but I'd like to hear more about this pig farm.
Written by Eric J. Warm, MD, University of Cincinnati, Cincinnati, Ohio. This excerpt was voiced by paid professional voice actors from the freelancer work platform Fiverr.com. Narrated by Janika DeMonico. The character Larry was voiced by John Napko. The character John was voiced by Alex Ransom. Special thanks to the actors for bringing this project to life.